This is Ciara Riley, and you are listening to the Quantum Leap Podcast.
Hello, Leapers! Welcome to the Quantum Leap Podcast, Quantum Leap Aftershow. I'm Albie, and as always, with me is Hayden.
How are you going? Hey, it looks like we're the ham podcast today. Hayden, Albie, Morgan.
Oh, I like it. We're full of ham. And our special panelist today, our special guest, is Morgan Feldon. You may know him from Replica Props. He makes hand links with him and his buddy, and they make blinky, cool hand links that everybody wants. And I'm the only one that doesn't have one yet.
No, I don't have one
yet.
either.
How you doing, Morgan?
I'm doing great. Thanks for bringing me on for this talk about episode number 8.
Thank you for coming on. Yeah, today we're talking about Stand By Ben. Morgan, for people who haven't watched the many things you've done with us, tell them a little bit about yourself.
So I have been a fan of Quantum Leap since the beginning, when I was 16, 17, starting out, and managed to catch some of the pilot when it was first on. Yeah, I've been around. Remember recording those episodes on VHS tape and rewatching them. The leap back got quite a few views, and saw Mirror Image when it happened and rewound in disbelief and rewatched it. And yeah.
That's awesome. So you've been around forever. You've been a leaper forever.
And then kind of, went away from it. And, I didn't go to any of the conventions like a lot of people did, but, kind of off and on over the years. And then scrolling through Facebook one day, and my now partner, Rob, had put a lot of years into getting the exact configuration of the tiles of the Gummy Bear Handlink just right. And he was looking for some help with electronics. And I jumped into his private messages and said, give me a chance. And 2 years later, we had a working prototype. And now we produce Gummy Bear Handlinks. And we're working on designing a calculator handlink as well, because there's a lot of fans of that handlink.
Any plans for the hockey puck, or are you just going to send him an Echo Dot?
Well, that's down to two things: customer interest and our interest, and we'll just see where they go. The original show had several different handlinks. There's a video that I did that dug through all of the different handlinks and really tried to track down the history of each one. I've even got a follow-up video coming that's going to have a little more, because I've thought of some things. And I want to talk about the Evil Leaper handlinks, both of them.
So are you in touch with the property master of the new show? Could you guys DM each other about handlink design and stuff?
We are not in contact with her. We are, what I was saying, I guess, was that, the original show had 6 different handlinks, 5 different handlinks, plus the stunt handlink, which has been used in the new show to connect back to the original to have that kind of echo. And the new show, so far we've had 2. We had a very different one in the earthquake episode. I'm kind of keen on that one. It looked, it's a slate, like a white frosted tablet. It's got little LEDs around the sides. And that's what they started with. And then they went to the hockey puck, and who knows what they'll do next. So that'll determine whether, what we make a replica of.
That's awesome. Yes, Morgan, I will definitely be contacting you soon, and hopefully I'll get a package at some point. So I'm excited. So next time Hayden comes to the States, maybe we'll get him one too. He can smuggle it back, I guess. Well, there's many places, right, Hayden?
Well, I think you're more versed in...
There are many places to hide a handlink. Ooh, the Gummy Bear.
I think you might be a bit more versed in that than me.
Well, there's no question that there's been more interest with the new show. There's no question.
Yeah. I had an interesting conversation with Ciara Riley about handlinks and stuff, so it was very interesting. I got to ask her a bunch of stuff. We can talk about that off air, though. So today we're talking about Stand By Ben. Morgan, what are your first impressions of Stand By Ben? I
say overall it was a good episode. I I've had some thoughts about the new Quantum Leap, and I rather than just assuming or kind of going based on some of the comments you see, I looked, and the original show, we had as 51, 52 minutes for an episode, and the new show, 41, 42 minutes. So commercials are really out of control. That's all I can say. And so it's really tough when they're splitting. And I'm sure this has been a topic on past episodes, is that they're trying to tell more story in less time. And something that has stuck out as an issue for me is that you'll have a problem that's introduced, and then you have to get to the answer. It has to be solved. It's wrapped up in a bow in like 3 sentences. And it's difficult. Do you buy it as an audience that you've gone from something that comes up, like someone, in this episode, she's talking about cutting on herself. He's talking about drug abuse. They're talking about these different issues. And you go from that to Ben having a speech, and it's solved so quickly. But I will say that as the episode went on, I felt like there was enough time that it was allowed to kind of spin out and have some good moments, when they're dancing in the cabin and different things. So I'd say that the episode used its time well. And I noted that this was the first episode written by Emily Kim. So I don't know anything about her, but this was a new entrant into the writing. So
I like when they bring new writers on. I guess they're all new to this point because we've only had 8 episodes, but it's great that they do that.
Well, as long as they actually understand Quantum Leap, though.
So what is it, like a good 5-6 minutes shorter? What's the difference?
Oh, it's full 10 minutes, 52 minutes to 41 or 42 minutes.
Oh,
so you
wow.
lose another 10 minutes. That's why we're seeing a lot of shows go to Hulu and some of the streaming services, because they're allowed to stretch it out.
I would love a streaming version, because I do watch it streaming again. So it'd be cool if they had like an extra bonus extended version on that, so we watch it live of the night. But yeah, I could see that the 10 minutes is a big difference. And a lot of that is just the breathing room to tell the story. So they got to just jam it all in there. Plus there's the project stuff back at headquarters and the leap. So it is rough, but they are getting better with managing their time. I agree with what you're saying. This one in particular, I noticed, Allison was talking about CSI time travel. And with this episode, I noticed it more than the others, just because they were doing the whole, like when they were saying Leah's family was very religious, and they just flashed to a guy holding up a rosary. And I was like, okay, that's like unnecessary insert shot. We understand what religious is, but I don't know. I didn't mind it. Like, I saw it, and it's trying to be something in that category, which is fine, because they can make whatever show they want to. It's art. But I was digging it. I really dug it. Hayden, what did you think of Stand By Ben?
Well, it's definitely better than the Exa shit we had last week.
Okay. Yeah, you didn't like that one.
No, I didn't like that one very much. But this one was a great improvement.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was perfect. A couple of things that I noticed was that they had a theme of, well, first of all, they had a theme of child abuse for some reason that's flowed through 2 weeks running. But also they had an overarching theme, not just in the leap, but also in the project side of things of what to do with toxic people. Do you cut them out of your life, or do you try and forgive them and try and move on with them? And the problem that I had was that they didn't really seem clear-cut in what they were trying to say with that, because in the leap, it appears that 3 of them are willing to cut people out. One of them's, wants to stay in touch with the one that was nice to her. And in the leap, they're saying essentially the exact opposite. You've got to, realize that family is family and try and make up and move on with them. I didn't think it was very clear-cut what they were trying to say there, unless overall they're trying to say you have to make your own decision as to what you think is going to be best for you. I think they could have explained their overarching theme a little bit better. Something else that jumped out at me is they've kind of gotten the impression already that Janice has been working with Ben for some bigger purpose. All this conflict that the project is having with Janice could so easily be avoided if they just get in touch with her, say, look, you shouldn't have acted on your own, but we forgive you. Come here, tell us what it is that you need to do, and let's see what we can do to help, or maybe you can help us. That would have been a good way to fit in with their overall overarching themes of forgiveness, which I think is what they are trying to get across. Especially now that we know, as the end of the episode told us, and Albie, this is what you picked from the start, apparently Ben is trying to save Addison, and that's why he had to act when he did to try and leap instead of her. Although one thing that I don't quite understand is if he's leaping to prevent Addison from dying in the future and needs to go to the future to do it, why does he need to leap at all? Why can't he just wait until then and then prevent what he knows is going to happen?
That's a good point.
Okay, so if he waits to go to the future, because we're all time traveling forward all the time, most of us anyway. If he does wait, it might be in the far future to where they're all old men, and do you want to wait your whole life to fix something? That would be kind of like a Futurama. Is that a word? Do you want to wait that whole time, or do you want to do it now? And if he does it, doesn't it undo it? Right?
You could also make very small changes throughout, which can have a really big change overall. You might not have to wait all the way to that very far future. He might only need to change a couple of small things in the lead up to it. The only reason that I can think of is because of Leaper X, floating around in the past. Maybe that's what he's leapt to prevent. Maybe Leaper X goes and kills Addison sometime before she's about to make her first leap, and he's trying to prevent that. That's kind of the only thing I can think of, because if you think about it too much otherwise, it doesn't make much sense why he's decided to leap so that he can go into the future to prevent something from happening in the future. It seems a bit contrived.
This is reminding me a lot of the Flash storyline, where he tried to save Iris West from Savitar. And that was a whole season on just, we know the exact date it happens, we know the time it happens. He can time travel, he has all these abilities, and yet they try everything. And it just comes down to, perseverance and just the last second. It was really a wild storyline. So it's interesting to see. So here's a question for you guys. Do you think this was an 11th hour change when it was changed because Scott Bakula was not going to be on the show? I think I got a yes from Albie.
I 100% think so. I think they wrote themselves in their corner, totally expected to get Scott, probably were indicated that they would get Scott. And when they find out they weren't getting Scott, they had to go, okay, what do we do now?
Well, Morgan, have you read the original script for the original pilot?
I have not.
Well, Albie has. Do you want to spill the beans on what the plans were for Sam in that episode? If you want to hear them, Morgan.
Well, Sam, sure. Well, yeah, it's not a spoiler because it didn't happen, won't happen. Sam was working with Janice to do something, and that's all we knew. But the last scene in that episode had Janice and Sam in it, so they were working together to do whatever was going to get done. So Sam was apparently back, is the way I read it.
It sounds a bit like it was going to be that final scene from episode 3 where we see Addison building her imaging chamber. It sounds like that might have been what they were originally planning for the end of the pilot, and having Sam there with her helping. That would make sense
when we get that
me,
tantalizing view of the stunt handling.
Yeah, I was disappointed to see the stunt handling still. I was like, really? I know she has it. Really? There's got to be a way. Anyway, maybe season 3. By then, you guys will be the official prop replicas of Quantum Leap. I'm sure you'll get a deal. They have to give it to you. There's nobody else, right? and yeah, my thought is, if it was just something in the future that he has to prevent, he could just, send a letter, Western Union, and it would work. I mean, they even did it in Timeless, if you remember.
Well, they did it in Quantum Leap
totally
too,
future, and it worked.
in the leap back. They did that too.
Oh,
remember
okay.
he mailed the letter to his
So,
lawyer, and the lawyer held on to it until.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's how they opened that's how they
Yep.
opened.
So
and to a lesser extent, a leap for Lisa. Al leaping into himself with instructions of what to do to prevent a death.
So I think it's more than what we know so far. So and then where does Leaper X fit in? Where does Janice fit in? Janice is working with Ben to do whatever this is. She wasn't so sure. She was like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" You know, so there's got to be more, and they might not even know what the plan is yet. You know, so
yeah,
we'll see.
Well, in my opinion,
2 months break is a long time.
Yeah. I was just saying, Morgan, in my opinion, to answer your question, I don't really think they wrote themselves into a hole. I think the plan probably was always that Addison will end up dead somewhere along the way, and that the initial leap was because he was there to save her. But it might have been that they got that knowledge of that future event from Sam, whereas now we don't actually yet know where they get that knowledge from.
I think the reason that Ben leapt is to save Addison in the future, yes, but I think the thing that he did to save Addison in the future was leap in her place. So, you know, they might make that more clear later. I don't know. We'll see. But this episode is more about more than this. This was about 1996, good music, kids going camping, almost dying, originally dying, and this time not dying, and like learning life lessons and becoming lifelong friends like us. And at the end of the episode, I definitely want to talk about the preview for Quantum Leap 2023 and all those little details that we got, but we'll save that for later. We got a look and leap from Morgan Feldon coming up in the last segment of the show, so you got to stick around and see what he has, because he has all those bibbly boops behind him. So it's going to be something good. All right, but we have bills to pay. So before we go to this first interview with Ciara Riley Wilson, Hayden, who's our sponsor this week?
Well, our sponsor is Canpakes. You know, an overarching theme that I think we got from this episode was that teenagers are stupid. They didn't even think to take any food or water with them. And if they just bothered to take a can of Canpakes with them, well, I know that they wouldn't have starved and they wouldn't have died of thirst, because they are that juicy that, you know, it'll quench your thirst. And, you know, there's so much that they can fit inside a can. They use microencapsulation. It looks an awful lot bigger on the inside, just like the TARDIS. There are so many more pancakes in a can than you would have expected. So, yeah, if they had just thought to take a can of Canpakes with them on their runaway trip, then they would easily have survived it.
You go to quantumleappodcast.com/Canpakes and follow the affiliate link, and then that'll help out the show because they'll give us a little bit of a kickback, okay? And there is a special deal. We'll talk about that later. Where you can get up to 50% off your first order. So quantumleappodcast.com/Canpakes. Okay, so, I noticed in the cabin that they had a bunch of food, and I was wondering if they had any Canpakes in there, because they got to have them, right? You have a cabin, you have a boat, you have some place where you're not going to be very often, but you need food, you bring Canpakes with you. But we'll talk about that later. I had the great opportunity, along with one of my fellow Quantum Leap podcast hosts, to sit down and talk to Ciara Riley Wilson. She played Leah in this episode, and I was really impressed by her. So check it out. Here's Ciara Riley Wilson.
For me, it doesn't matter how well I do in school or anything else. I'm interested in girls. Just so happens that means that my mom and dad think that I'm going to hell. And Stacy, I know you would just tell me not to care what they think, but I can't help it. I love them.
Hey there, welcome to the Quantum Leap podcast. We're really excited today to be bringing you an interview with Ciara Riley Wilson. Ciara, welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
We're really happy to have you. So we've just seen Ciara in the latest episode, Stand By Ben. And we're going to be talking about that. And also, as usual, we'll just be talking a bit about Ciara's career and various other topics as well. So, perhaps we could start there, because you've been acting since quite a young age. I think you're youngest credits seem to go back to around age 13. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got started at that age, and what led you there?
Yeah, totally. So I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and I was a competitive dancer. So I was really in the arts and performing. And I decided to dip my toe into the world of acting when I was about 10 years old. I ended up doing an acting camp in LA, and I got an agent from that. So I kind of brought my mom down to LA and tried it out and ended up loving it, and it went really well for me. And so I've been acting ever since, about 10 years now.
And have you kept up with the dancing? Has that been something you've been doing in parallel?
Yeah. I came out originally for acting and dance, so I did a lot of like commercial hip hop and music videos and commercials and stuff like that. I still dance here and there. I really love when I can like incorporate it into acting roles. Like I play a lot of dance coaches on shows and stuff like that. So that's really fun for me. But acting's like the main focus right now, but I still like to do both.
Okay, that answers one of my other questions, because I was watching some of Kim Possible yesterday and I saw you doing some dancing in that. I wasn't sure if that was actually you, but no stunt dancing. Good stuff. And I gather you also do some fashion design as well. Is that a more recent thing that you've started bringing in?
Yeah. Over quarantine, I was bored just like everybody else, and so I picked up sewing, and I ended up really, really loving it. And I took some sewing classes at LA Trade Tech for a while, and I'm starting my own clothing brand this fall and beginning of next year. So yeah, I'm definitely incorporating it a lot more into my career recently, but it's really fun. I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. What a way to branch out. And yeah, what a way to spend time during quarantine.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe we can dive a little bit into Quantum Leap. Did you have much prior awareness of the show? Obviously, it was a little before your time, but were you aware of it when you got the
time.
Yeah,
I was aware of it. My mom saw the audition and she was like, "Oh my god, I know the show from the 80s." And I was like, I don't, but I will do my research. And but I have watched episodes of the original since then, so I am familiar now. It's really cool, and I think that the new one does a great job of like revamping it and making it a new show, but still like keeping, the original fans happy.
So can you talk me through a little bit about the audition process and about how you even became aware of the role?
Yeah, so the audition came in, and I've been doing this for a long time, and sometimes when I like really like get passionate about a role and then send off my tape, it like gives me anxiety. So I've kind of like, when I do a tape, I'm like, just send it out and I'm never going to think about it ever again. Do my best, give it a couple takes, and like if it's right for me, it's right for me. So that's kind of what happened. I didn't think much of it. And with the original audition script too, it's like you don't really know how big the role is because it's just 2 scenes. And with Quantum Leap specifically, it's like the guest stars are in the world of each episode. So I really like had no idea what I was getting into. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a cute role. I really identified with the character because I'm bisexual and Leah is gay in the show. And so I thought that was really cool. I don't get to do that all the time. And then when I booked it and got the full script, I was like, oh my God, this is like meaty. Like, this is going to be fun. I'm doing a lot more than I thought I was in the audition. So that was really exciting.
So what did you know besides her sexuality? What did you know about Leah when you auditioned for her?
I think the character breakdown was just she is the kind of quiet wisp of the group, and she is escaping with her friends out of this abusive school. And that was pretty much it. And then the 2 scenes that were the audition scenes were me going up to Ben asking if he had an imaginary friend, which was a really cute little scene. But I had no idea that like Addison was a hologram, or like I had truthfully no idea that Ben wasn't just my friend when I read the original audition. And then the second audition scene was when I take all the drugs after I break my leg, and I'm just kind of like rambling for the first time talking about all these things. So yeah.
When you read the entire script, the real script, the shooting script. What did you think about your character, and did you share any other similarities with your character?
Yeah, I mean, Leah is so interesting. She's kind of like, it was cool because I'm going to sidetrack here, but it'll all make sense in a second. But Avi, the director, he made us all watch the movie Stand By Me, which is what the episode is based off of. And I had never seen that movie before. And it was really cool to see it because I learned so much about my character Leah in the main boy. I can't remember his name right now. But it was cool how the writer kind of picked and chose how each character's like mirror the characters in that movie. And so I feel like watching that movie and reading the whole script gave me such a better sense of Leah. And she's like Leah's an observer, and I see that in myself too, where, you know, she's kind of like surrounded by these personalities and her friends, but she's the one who's really like taking it all in and like making decisions, and she's the one who had the bag full of the stuff that, you know, we actually needed to survive, and the heroine in the way that no one would really expect just looking at her. So I thought that was really cool.
This is the first episode of Quantum Leap that wasn't, besides the original pilot, wasn't very backlotty. It didn't look like it was just all filmed at Universal Studios or something. So what was it like being on location that much on the shoot?
It was so fun. We were at this beautiful ranch. I think it's the Disney Ranch. And it was really cool being outside. I felt like I was camping all the time. Lots of bug bites, lots of bug spray. And my car is just destroyed from the dirt and the mud I was driving through every day. But it was really cool. It was really cool being outside. It felt like summer camp.
Did you guys form any friendships? The three of you that were playing the kids from the camp?
Oh yeah, I love Anthony and Raquel. Oh my god, I had known Anthony through mutual friends before, so that was cool getting to work with a familiar face. And then about a week before we started filming, Avi had us all out to dinner at a steakhouse, which was really fun. So we got to like really vibe and get to know each other, which is so rare with especially like a guest star. Like I did a series regular and we didn't even really have like a coordinated dinner to like get to know each other. So I felt like really close to them throughout the filming process.
So far, we've talked to a lot of people that were on Quantum Leap and they had like different experts for different things. Did you have any kind of expert, maybe a wilderness expert or a limping on crutches expert or something to advise you?
We had a great stunt guy because there was a lot of when I was climbing out of the car and the glass and just like me with Ringer and Sullivan like really fighting them. And then there was also a snake handler on the set the entire time. Whenever we had to go through any sort of brush, it was this really cool guy with this, you know, cowboy hat and like big vest, and he had these tools. He was just like picking out rattlesnakes so we didn't, you know, get bitten. But I was like, wow, what a job. I would love to have that job for a day. Just one day though. Just one day.
And definitely someone you need around at a time like that.
Yeah. Oh,
I would have never thought of that.
Great. Yeah. Apparently it happens a lot. So very important guy.
Glad you made it through the shoot okay then. I wanted to ask a little something about your preparation for the role. One of the things that came out was Leah is very much an overachiever and someone that self-harms. And that is something that could very easily have been very overwritten and very overperformed. And it came out very subtly, very realistically. I used to be quite close to someone who was very similar to that character. So firstly, I just wanted to acknowledge that I think you and the writer did a fantastic job of that. And thank you. And I also just wanted to know what was going through your mind when you were preparing for the role in terms of how to set that bar and make sure that it came across, but without going over the top.
Wow. Yeah. First of all, thank you. That means a lot. I know that's a really powerful thing to try and represent. And I know way too many people either themselves or know people who have gone through that. I think for me, the most powerful way to convey things like that is through the subtleties. And I think that people who are going through that don't want to see someone whose entire personality is the fact that they self-harm, that they are people who are trying their best and living their lives, and they are like have full, depth to them. And I think I wanted to make that really clear, that although Leah is going through this and so many things, and there's so much heaviness in her world, like she's still just a, teenage girl. And I think that's what the episode also does really beautifully is, there's a lot of camaraderie between us being like teens and like not knowing what we're doing and like talking about music and dancing in the cabin, but we're also like going through this really heavy like escape from an abusive school. So I just think all of that went into my process of, really diving into that mindset, but not letting it take over completely.
Dancing in the cabin, was it difficult not to dance so expertly like you can when you're just a bunch of kids just dancing around? And was there a choreographer for that little bit of dancing, or how did that work?
No, that was all improv. We were just vibing. Oh my god, that was fun. That was probably my favorite day of shooting and scene to shoot. I loved the cabin stuff. It was hard though because I kept trying to dance on my leg. Like I would like step on my leg and I'm like, oh no, wait, that one is completely shattered. I can't, that's not real.
Was the interior of the cabin set?
It was a building. I think it was a completely gutted out cabin. And then the set deck crew just, totally made it really, really cool.
Very cool. Yeah, it looked real, so I was wondering.
Mm-hmm. It did.
You mentioned about the camaraderie between the kids and the fact that you're a bunch of 4 kids kind of trying to work things out and not really sure about who you are. Of course, one of you is played by an actor that's significantly older. How was that having Ray playing? I know you're all playing. Yeah, I think all of you are in your 20s playing teenagers. But how was it having Ray in there also playing a lot further down? Was he just one of the kids as well?
Yeah. Ray is seriously one of, if not my favorite actor that I've worked with. He is just so professional yet playful, and he was like in on all of our inside jokes. We were giggling together. It did not feel like he was, someone who's significantly older than us, but he also like took care of us in a way because it's like his set. He made sure we were all good. So yeah, it was really fun. It definitely felt like completely parallel to the script where it's like he was one of us, but not, but yes.
Is there any funny stories from the set, like for anything that happened during the shoot that would be humorous?
Funny stories.
To talk about?
We filmed the car scene, the original, like the lines when we're escaping. That was in a VR studio. It wasn't actually outside, which was really cool. Yeah,
I had no idea. Well done by the crew.
Yeah, it looked amazing. And Avi originally didn't want to do that because he thinks that, sometimes it looks, you can tell sometimes.
Yeah, usually.
But when we got there, oh my God, it was crazy. And they had wind in our hair and they would just like rotate the car based on like the scene.
Wow.
But Ray has like motion sickness. So it was like, it's real. It looks like you're kind of like in Star Tours at Disneyland. So it was like a lot to handle, but that's got
to really trigger that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That set was right next to the Access Hollywood set. Like we were literally like in the same room over, and we could see like Mario Lopez like live on the air, and I thought that was really fun. And they were giving away a bunch of like props from the set, like glasses and books and stuff they just didn't need, and so we all looked like we just came from the thrift store, like carrying all these like espresso martini glasses and stuff.
That's funny.
That was kind of funny.
I had no idea. I assumed that was just a tow rig or something. Wow.
Yeah,
that's
it looked really good.
Yeah, we did film it once in the actual car just to have it as an option, but it ended up looking a lot better with the screen.
what was the production like? The feel on the set, and the producers and directors, and everybody behind the scenes. How was that interaction with the cast?
I say this so candidly, some of the nicest people I've ever worked with, and everyone just like really meshed together in a way that you kind of see on a project where people have worked together for years. So that's why I was really surprised, because I was like, I know this is a new show. Sometimes people need to like work out the kinks. But no, everyone worked really well together. There was a lot of like youthful energy on the set, which was really fun. And I also knew a couple people from a project that I just did. So that was cool to see familiar faces. It was really fun.
Were you aware during the production that this was building up to be the mid-season cliffhanger? I don't know when they make that kind of decision, if that was something that they might not have even been aware of at that point.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they were aware yet, but I had no idea. That's really cool to know.
Were there certain parts of the script that weren't included for the script handed out to everyone, like this like big reveal at the end of the episode about Addison?
No, I think that was in the first draft. There were definitely like some rewrites all throughout, but yeah, I up until filming, I hadn't seen it's coming out as the weeks go by, so I had no idea like the weight of what that was. And now like catching up, I'm like, wow, this is like, it's a big one.
What are some things that got revised, something that we won't see in the episode that you originally remember?
Let me think. I know my name got changed. I had a different last name in the beginning. I think it was Hispanic and I'm Filipino, so they changed it, which is really cool. That's very important to me. Originally, the episode was to be set in the snow, not the desert, or not the forest. Avi wanted like a really like we freeze to death kind of thing, but it was just far too expensive and hard to make it realistic. It was way easier for us to just be sweating in California than otherwise. So yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's a major change. That's fascinating.
Yeah, that would have been completely different. Was shooting on location like that, was craft services any different? I mean, like watching the episode, it looks like you're hiking through the hills, but you're probably just off a main road or something. But like, we
were actually like pretty deep in the forest. Okay. And it was a hike to Crafty and to the bathrooms a lot. So sometimes we were even shuttled to the bathrooms. And I also had this honking leg on my like wrapped. So I was definitely wobbling around the forest 90% of the time. But the food was good. That's what I can tell you.
It's well worth the walk.
I worked up a sweat.
What was it like working with Caitlin and not being able to acknowledge her presence other than pretending that you were talking to also a imaginary friend?
Yeah, that was one of the hardest parts. I think in the first 3 days, I just consistently kept looking her in the eye mid-scene, and I was like, so funny because I feel like you just don't really deal with that on any other type of show. So it took a second to get used to. Yeah. And it was sad too, because since we're all, in the heat, walking through the forest, we can sweat and we're in like, we take off our jackets, but she had this leather coat and like black shirt and black pants, and she can't look like she's sweating because she's not actually there. So I felt so bad for her. She was like, fans and hat and everything.
Were there any jokes on the set? Because I noticed that the place was supposed to take place in Sierra Nevada, right? I think. Mm-hmm. And your name is Ciara, spelled different, of course, but very similar in pronunciation. I wonder if they got that from you or what? Or was it always set? No, it was set in the snow, so they had to pick it later.
They did, but I'm not sure. I don't think so. But that's funny to think about.
Yeah. It's cool to have your name in there, kind of.
Yeah.
So now you've had some time to sort of think and reflect, any other funny stories or anecdotes that you can remember from the set?
It was really fun having the kind of scar on my face from the car accident and the blood coming down, because I like did a bit with my roommates where I came back and I was like, oh my god, I just got into this car accident and my face is all scratched up, and they were like, what? And then I was like, psych, I'm on Quantum Leap.
You mentioned you got to keep some stuff from the set. Did you get to keep at all your shirt from the camp or anything like that?
It's funny because Ray and I have a joke about this. I'm a collector. Like, I really like collecting memories and stuff. That's why my wall looks like this. But I like things that people wouldn't normally think to collect. So I like to find things on the ground and like trash and stuff like that. So like I know what it's from, but it's not directly, like the director's chair or shirt or anything. So I found something really cool on the ground in the desert. It's like looks like a little mosaic like piece of pavement. And when I found it, I like ran up to Ray and I was like, I found trash. And he's like, show me.
Oh.
So I might like make it into a necklace or something, but no one would ever know it's from Quantum Leap.
Yeah, that's perfect though. What a marvelous memory.
Yeah.
Very cool. What will you take away from this episode? You've done many things in your career, but from this episode, like looking back at it, what would your general feeling be of it?
For me, personally, the filming process was just so lovely, and being welcomed onto a set as a guest star and like having it be, it felt like a mini movie, which is really cool. I will take that with me forever. And especially this character, it's one of my favorite characters I've ever played. And I really felt like I got to explore as an actor and do a lot of things that I've never done. I really like the physicality of this role. And so that was really exciting. And then the episode as a whole, I think it really says a lot about, the nuances of teenagers and dealing with really, really big things, but still being teenagers at heart and having that sort of energy and camaraderie and friendship. And there's just a lot of heart in this episode. And that's what I love about Quantum Leap as a whole. The original and the new one is there's so much heart. There's like all this drama and people breaking legs and cars crashing and time travel, but there's also just like a lot of real human connection. So that's really cool.
It's a great summary. Thank you. Perhaps then we could talk about what's coming up next for you. Have you got any productions that are that we can watch out for in the future?
Yeah. So next year, I will be in a show called Free Ridge, which is a spinoff of a Netflix show called On My Block. I'm really, really, really excited for that one. So yeah, you can catch that next year. And then I'm also starting a clothing brand. So if you check out my Instagram, I'll be like posting all of that on there.
Great, thank you. Well, we'll keep an eye out for the show, and we'll pop your Instagram account in the comments section below the YouTube video. It's been a blast talking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, of course. It's been so much fun. You guys are great. I'm excited.
Thanks.
Thank you. And we're back. And apparently we're under lockdown. I had no idea that this program did lockdown. Can somebody shut that off? That siren, that buzzer? What is that? Just shut that damn noise off. Hayden, are you in control of that? Can you fix this? I'm like, I can't. Why are we under lockdown? What happened? Is Janice hacking us? I know we talked to Georgina, but I didn't know she would hack our podcast. So, thank you for shutting that off, Hayden. Yeah, okay. I can deal with the lights, but that siren is just crazy. So, man, Georgina got into our podcast one way or another. That's crazy.
Well, at least none of us are epileptic.
We'll put a photosensitive warning on this. No. Okay, let's talk about the kids that are in their 20s that were in this camp, and talk about it. I think I'll start with this one just because I loved this episode. This was my favorite episode so far. And that's been happening a lot to me. And I think it has a lot to do with like, that's where my brain kind of stopped developing. Maybe I was 21 in 1996. So to me, 1996 wasn't that long ago. Like, I still think in 1996 terms, you know, I still burn CDs. The two CDs in my car right now are Spice World and Tragic Kingdom. So when they were talking about the Spice Girls and they were playing No Doubt at the end, I was like, this is me. This is great. I just loved being in this time. There wasn't much of the time because they're in the wilderness. They just tell you up front with the card, but I just loved everything about the episode.
So do you think the reason that they put the card with the year on it was because otherwise it would be very difficult to discern a year? I think this is the first time they've actually done that since the Atlantis episode, and that was episode 2. So, yeah, that might be the reason.
Because there wasn't much to indicate of when it was, except for when Addison, you know, gave us the date, but there wasn't anything else. So if you missed that one line, you would have no idea where it was. But I think he couldn't miss the 1996. But I would like the full date. I missed the full date on the title sequence thing.
And the episode title.
Yeah, the original show did not leave that to the imagination. You always had a title, which was sometimes a play on words. You always had the date. So the new show seems to try a lot of things. I think they tried 5 different logos.
I like the
5
orange
different
one.
typefaces for the logos. So.
I like the orange one. That was
cool. That's 6 because the Halloween was orange.
Yeah. Speaking of the title, Stand By Ben, I had no idea. I didn't get it at all that it was the Stand By Me thing until we talked to Ciara, and she said that the director had her watch Stand By Me to get in the mood of what the episode's supposed to feel like. I had no idea. Like, it went right over my head.
Well, then why wasn't Will Wheaton a cameo as one of the guards?
Exactly. Will Wheaton should have been Ringer, the guard with the beard. I would have totally popped for that. That would have been awesome. Okay, where were you guys in 1996? How old were you, and what were you doing?
That would require math.
It just so happens we have an expert math. 10? Okay.
So
you don't remember it really?
I was in primary school, and I remember it was about the time that I started watching the original Quantum Leap.
96.
96. I had to do math 3 times because I didn't believe it. I thought I was 16 in 96. I was 21. I don't know how that happened.
96 would be exactly 20. Yeah.
Wow. So me and Morgan are about the same age. That's pretty cool. So what do you think about the 1996? The music was great, I thought.
The music was good. Yeah, for sure. Of course, they had to mention the snail mail at the end.
And the Spice
Girls. That was and the Spice Girls.
I think that was put in there specifically for Matt Dale because he's made his love of the Spice Girls known to many people, and him and Deborah are good friends, you know. So I'm sure that was just popped in there for him. But they are like the new Beatles, the new Black Crowes, the new I don't know who, Wham. They're like the new Wham. You know, they're good. So what are the connections to the movie Stand By Me with this? Because, like, at the end, not one of them were dead, and you know, they didn't get killed in Vietnam, and they didn't find a body. I think the only thing is they were walking in the outside, so there were people that were outside. There's no train tracks, so why was it like Stand By Me? I don't get it.
Well, Hayden brought into this earlier, which was that it seemed like the different kids had a different level of interest in breaking away, and that Leah was the least. You know, she was like, you know, almost like, why am I here? Do I really want to do this? Can't I reconcile? And I think there might be a connection there, because not all of the kids had the same, you know, feeling.
I think it's just a really superficial link that there were 4 kids who went on a trip walking through somewhere and Stand By Me, and in this episode as well. That's about all that I can come up with. Just wanting to use a name that sounds somewhat like something people would recognize.
And I didn't even recognize it. It has a little bit of a connection to the Halloween episode because Stand By Me was based on the short story The Body by Stephen King, right?
Yeah, it was.
I really liked these characters. Let's break them down. We have Roy, the drug addict. that was trying to get sober and had gotten sober until they were mean to him. I don't like when people are mean. So what do you think
Put
of
him
Roy?
in the box. Yeah.
Yeah, Roy to me was the oldest looking of the kids. He looked like he was maybe 28, 29. I don't know. I thought his character was pretty good. It was probably my least favorite of the characters. My two favorites were probably the Stacy and Leah. I liked Stacy's look, and I liked how she was like the leader of the group, the unofficial leader. She looked a little bit Spice Girly to me, so maybe that's, she got that fashion from the Spice Girls.
Yeah,
at the time.
she looked
A little
very
bit of
scary
curly
Spice.
with the hair, and then I loved her corduroy bell bottoms. I was like, yeah, some corduroy bell bottoms this first week because the 90s was the 70s again, I think, because the 80s was the 50s. I don't know where the 60s came in, but I like the character of Leah as well. She was kind of cool.
They had enough time to feel out a little bit of each character for sure, and the connection between Ben and Stacy at the end, talking about their mom passing away and having to be in charge at an early age and being on their own at an early age. So that was good.
Yeah, all the kids were fine at what they did. I thought it was a good mix of characters. I thought that they were all pretty well fleshed out. So I don't have any major issue with any of them. I think that, what was the name of the so-called leader? Stacy, wasn't it?
Stacy. We had Stacy, Leah, Roy, and Ben.
Okay. Well, I thought Stacy was the one that rubbed me the wrong way the most. Just the fact that she wasn't. It really came across that she didn't care, if everyone would end up dead in this process. We're either going to get to Reno or we're going to die trying. I think that she was probably the least mature of the lot, even though she was thrust into a sort of leadership position. So it's a good thing that Ben was there.
She was brought into this place for trying to burn down her own house. So I think she was kind of ready to give up. When you do that, that's like, you've had it.
Yeah. Well, if she wants to do that process, get to Reno or die trying, then by all means, but don't bring down everyone else around you, is what I'm saying.
What I think they nailed about the character of Stacy was, I don't know if it was the writer, the actor, director, all of them together, but Stacy definitely had that attitude to where she knew everything. She was an adult. She knew everything, and her way was right, and it didn't matter what anybody else said because she knew everything. And we all go through that phase where we think we know everything, and we don't realize we know nothing until we're older and realize we don't know anything. So I think they got that.
Yeah, she came across.
They got that immaturity
like
perfect. I think.
Yeah,
it was just perfect, and it was subtle in a way, but also right in your face at the same time. And you know what was weird? I want to say, like, my favorite character in this episode was Ben, because Raymond did such a fabulous job. I think he integrated the other Ben, because they had said he had Asperger's a little bit, and he's a nerdy kid too and stuff. And it was so subtle, but Raymond's acting in the episode was just like 5% of this other character, and it was just a little bit in the like the movements, the way his speech pattern was, and just slightly enough to go, really? And on like repeated watchings, I appreciated it so much more every time, because I saw more of the Ben kid character, less of Ben that we're used to, Ben Song.
Well, actually, it's kind of lucky that the character of Ben the child was a little bit quirky, because this, I think, is the episode where they are really making it known that, he's talking to thin air, essentially, because no one else can see Addison. But it's good that he's able to pass it off as just one of young Ben's quirks, that he has an imaginary friend. So I thought that was quite well done. It's nice that they're actually acknowledging, some of the Quantum Leap quirks. And I also thought it was kind of cute that Roy said, "Oh, score 1 for the imaginary hottie," and Addison says, "Oh, well, it is nice to be appreciated."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what did Roy say? Is she hot? And if not, what are you doing, or something, or and, well, she is hot, right? Addison's hot, yeah. So she's got a lot of help with hair, makeup, and costuming too. We'd look pretty good if we had the team like that as well. Probably better than, I'm sweating here to death in 69-degree weather. I like that they were talking about an imaginary girlfriend, because I've had one for the past year or two, maybe. I met her during the pandemic, while you couldn't go outside, and her name's Rebecca, and she's not real, but she identifies as real. So who am I to dash her hopes and dreams of being who she thinks she is? So I felt seen, and I like that.
Well, my girlfriend is actually real.
I might have to blur that out. I'm not sure. Standards and practices. But I think
what kind of show is this?
Quantum Leap After Dark.
Way after dark.
Way after dark. Yeah, it's late.
We do verge into the silly quite a lot.
The best part of it was all the kids really just accepting each other, because they were all misfits, and I think Leah's character said she felt like a misfit toy for so long, and I think they all kind of felt like that. But when they were together and on the run, they went from separate people that were just out for themselves to people that all had empathy for each other and became, relying on each other to survive, and going through that made them lifelong friends. And I thought that was great storytelling.
Well, that wasn't the best part of the episode, though, Albie. The best part was the fact that a cabin that's off the grid somehow has a landline phone line go to it. That was the best part.
Landline phone line, and it had running water, even though it was drawing water from the stream that was dry. And the 4 kids are walking for a day and a half without water, except for what was in that one bottle. And when they get there, Roy just turns on the water and says, "Ooh, we got water," and he walks away. I think all 4 of the kids would have been like, "Water, water, water," shoving it in their mouth. I'm like, why? Why would they just go, "Hey, we got water"? Come on.
Who needs water when you can dance?
Sorry. That's true. That's where the saying comes from. Why drink when you can dance? Yeah. Morgan, what did you think about the cabin scene, the dancing, the almost making out of Roy and Stacy? That was kind of hot, but awkward, but hot. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you saw it coming from a mile away, and whenever you put teenagers together in a stressful situation and running for their lives, these things tend to happen.
They need to relieve their stress somehow.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was cool that they didn't kiss, because that subverted my expectations. I thought that was going to be the standard, they were going to make out a little bit and then something would happen. But I was kind of glad that they were not sure, and and that gave a good opportunity for Ben to have that whole, it's okay to kiss the wrong boy sometimes, that was nice. But,
yeah, Stacy running away was totally the way to go with that.
Yeah, it's better that nothing did happen, because if something did happen, Jason would probably show up. The Voorhees guy.
Yeah.
And, it's great that they did have a landline, because I know 99% of the world is on the internet now, but there's still about 1% of people who do have to rely on a phone. So if you are one of that 1% of people, you don't need to worry. As long as you've got some sort of a phone, a landline or a mobile, you can still get yourself a can of Campakes. You can just call 707-847-6682 and you'll be able to get however many cans of it that you would like. Or obviously you can go to the website as well, which is
quantumleappodcast.com/Campakes, and leave off the last second S for savings, because you're getting 50% off your first deal if you follow our affiliate link and you type in Quantum Leap Aftershow, all one word. You'll get 50% off. And we're back. Luckily, lockdown's over, and we're doing okay now. So far, so good.
Well, that's what you think, Albie. You're punishing me by putting me in the box.
You belong in the box, sir. You're a very naughty boy. You use words that we're not allowed to use in the United States.
You're the one saying all the dirty things, saying I belong in the box.
Boxing Hayden. I think I saw that once. So let's talk a little bit about the project. Let's talk a little bit about the project. What happened to the project? They went under lockdown because Janice was trying to slow them down so she could get away. What do you guys think of the headquarters this week, Morgan?
Well, we had about 10 different people scurrying about. I don't know what they were doing, but had a lot of extras in the scenes.
I think
it's
I
very
don't know
important.
what they do all day.
Well, I think that's probably
Project Quantum Leap is well staffed.
I think that's probably Ian's crew. Ian seems to have quite a few little minions to do all the little programming things that they can't be bothered doing themselves. And here, I think that they needed as much help as they could get.
Everybody was scrambling around. Okay, move those iPads here. Okay, now move them there. it was interesting. They were definitely under lockdown because that's what you do under lockdown. You just run around like a chicken with your head cut off. I think, right?
Run in circles, scream and shout.
Yep. And speaking of, oh no, are we stuck? Are we stuck here? This is crazy because I was just about to talk about the elevator scene. This would have made, I think, a great bottle episode if we had Magic and Jenn in the elevator for the whole episode. It would have been like Shuttle Pod 1 on Enterprise or something. I was hoping for that, but they only got like 4 or 5 minutes. But I would have totally went all in if they were just stuck in the elevator the whole episode. Like, they do that on Grey's Anatomy or something? I don't know. An elevator episode for a bottle episode. But what do you guys think of Jenn and Magic?
Yeah. Well, I do remember an episode of Days of Our Lives. Actually, it was 3 episodes. In the first of those 3 episodes, Marlena got into an elevator. For the whole second episode, she talked to herself in the elevator. And then in the 3rd episode, she finally got out of the elevator.
Okay.
By
the way, I snuck some water into the elevator. I grabbed it just on the way in.
Okay, cool. That's important. So what do you
stay hydrated when you're in the desert?
You have to stay hydrated.
Elevator. All right.
Morgan, what do you think about that scene with Jenn and Magic? It
was okay. Of course, we have the estranged father who's what does it say? I took notes. The con man.
Con man.
Kind of called her whenever he needed money or whenever he was back in town. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing.
And apparently he knows Magic. So I'm thinking he was in one of Magic's military units or something back in the day. If he could just pick up the phone and call Magic.
I mean, they're kind of building up this thing because, Jenn had been in trouble before. I mean, Magic took a chance on her. So that whole thing, they're starting to build up.
Magic was her guardian angel.
I love Nanrisa Lee. Haven't always loved her character on the show because I'm like, does Quantum Leap really need almost like a cop character? But give it a chance and see where it's going.
Mm-hmm. My only complaint about Jenn is that they don't use her enough. So I mean, because I like her character, I love the actress who plays her, Nanrisa Lee, and I would just want to see more of her. And I know people are struggling with the headquarters stuff because they want to focus on the Leap stuff. But I like both. So, and especially because of the characters, as long as they're given something to do that's worthy of that time that they're taking away from the Leap.
It's so easy to complain about different episodes, and certainly there's highs and lows in the new show. I try to be constructive. I try to think, what would I do if I was in the writer's room? And you said it, which is, why don't we do episodes all in the future? 2 episodes all in the past and kind of go back and forth. When you try to put everything in one episode, everything misses something. Everything gets cut different ways. I mean, to me, Magic and Jenn in the elevator, contrasting with some story that actually connects with them could be interesting. But yeah, it's tough. They have to do a lot of shorthand. We were talking about earlier about, I'm from a religious family, and the next thing you see is the waving, kind of Catholic symbols. They got to use shorthand. They got to quick.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, if your religion makes you hate your daughter, you got to switch religions. I think that's goes without saying, right? So they've been going CSI time travel, but I really wish that eventually they can move more on to like Lost time travel. Well, that had time travel in it too, but like I would love just to see a whole episode, like a flashback of Jenn and in the orange jumpsuit in prison for being a hacker on the dark web. I would just love to see how like Jenn went from being caught and being in a maximum security prison for her hacking skills, and she couldn't be anywhere near electronics or electricity, or she'd like break out, to Magic coming to see her and Magic saying, I know your dad, I have this project and I'd like your help or something. I'd love to see that episode. They can't do it with the format they have now. They can talk about it for 2 minutes, but then it's over. But I'd love to see that episode, like a Nanrisa Lee Jenn episode.
I would like to see that sort of thing as well, but I don't think it would have just gone down as Magic is in recruiting mode and he thinks Jenn's the best, so he hires her. I think that there must be some reason why Magic would decide to, take a chance on Jenn. I think Jenn would have had to have proved herself in some way, and I think that that's more the story that I would want to be seeing. How did she prove herself to Magic to get her onto to get her viable to be onto the project, and preferably not for the reason or the motivation of wanting to be on the project. She should have been trying to do something good for some other reason, and then Magic realizing, oh, you'd be perfect for the project.
That's a pretty big thing in writing, which is show, don't tell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'd much rather see something play out than be told, here's what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they can include a leap, like Ben leaps into somebody, and it's just like a boring leap, and nothing's happening. He's like one of those guys that turns a key at the bottom of a missile silo during the Cold War or something, and all he has to do is sit in a room for 3 days by himself before he doesn't turn a key, right? And then the whole rest of the episode is the Jenn episode, part of it. I'd be great with that, but we can't get good character development if we're just seeing, 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there. I mean, every time they're on screen, I love it. I'm less angry that it's taking away from the leaps now. I'm learning to like the balance, and I think they're getting the balance better too. It was just cool to see that in the elevator, and I was hopeful that would be longer, but it just wasn't.
I was a little annoyed with that elevator scene, actually, because it's not really Magic's business as to why Jenn decides she doesn't want to talk to her father, and he shouldn't be trying to push the issue, regardless of what his own feelings might be. She's perfectly valid in, wanting to remove what she considers a toxic person from her life. And it did almost feel like she was being guilted into getting, some sort of a conversation going between them again, when, Dr. Phil says the best predictor of future behavior is relevant past behavior. So she's gone through this many times before, and I really don't think that it's a good idea for, someone, no matter how much she respects that person, to be advising her to go against her own judgment. That's just my opinion. So yeah, this was one of the few times I actually would have loved to hear Magic shut up, because usually I love hearing Magic talk. So that's just my opinion. To me, if you do want to, forgiveness doesnn come from other people, it comes from yourself, and it's up to you to decide whether you're going to maybe forgive isn't the right word to keep using, but whether you're going to allow yourself to be put in a similar situation and hope that the same outcome isn't going to occur again. If that makes sense. So,
or make any attempt at reconciliation. Yeah.
My thought was Magic and her dad are old army buddies, and she's grown up with him in her life. No, but that's my headcanon. And that he has sympathy for her because he sees how troubled her father's life has been and how it's affected his daughter, and he has empathy for her and wants to help her. So that's what I see. It's kind of like a pseudo father figure, because her dad's not there for her. So, you know, magic being magic, takes care of people. And I think that's why he takes care of her and got her onto the project. And I think he can trust her, because I think magic picking the people for the project wasn't about only their skills. It was about who he could trust. Because, I mean, you got a time travel device. You got to trust these people, you know, or they'll go back. If you make them mad, they go back in time and, you know, you don't exist. So you got to trust these people. As for when Ernie was talking, oh my goodness, whenever Ernie's on screen, I just stop what I'm doing and I watch. No, I'm like, it's Ernie Hudson. It's Ernie Hudson. It's Ernie Hudson.
Well, Ian was looking fabulous again. I'm just loving what they're doing with Ian every single episode.
I did not like Ian's outfit. This is the first episode I didn't like Ian's outfit.
But the hair and the makeup made up for it, though, I thought.
That was good. That was good. But it was all wide shots, and it was wide shots of them running around trying to fix whatever Jenn should be fixing, but she was trapped in the elevator. So I like when they have Mason on the, you know, those ultra close-ups, you know. But I don't know. This was the first outfit that I wouldn't wear. Like I would, but I wouldn't like enjoy it. It'd be like, you know, just simple clothes. But I guess you can't be fabulous every day. You know, I'm not.
I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny when Addison rescued Jenn and Magic, and she says, "God, it's good to be real," because usually she can't do anything to help as the hologram aside from the moral support and some instructions.
If she gets too used to being a hologram, that could be dangerous. I mean, she could be walking across the street, see a bus coming, and just keep walking onto its path and not forget where she is and what's going on and get splatted.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe that's what Ben's trying to prevent. A bus splat. I don't know.
Yeah.
And we've saved our coolest interview for last. Yes, we've had Raymond Lee. We've had Caitlin Bassett. We've had Ernie freaking Hudson. And we've had Mason Alexander Park. But we had got it. And we still had a need it. And the need it was Nanrisa Lee. And she was so gracious enough to come on our show and talk to us. And it turns out she knows who we are. So maybe they're all watching the show, listening to the podcast.
So there's a 100% success rate with the cast.
We got them all. So I was so lucky. I was so excited that we got Nanrisa for the show this time, because this has probably her biggest scene so far. You know, so it was perfect timing.
Well, if you got all the main cast, what are you going to do now? Are you going to Disneyland?
Well, actually,
we're going to Campagland.
When we come back in January, we have an exclusive interview with Georgina Riley, who plays Janice.
Ooh.
So I was a part of that, so I know what was said. I'm excited for everybody to see it. So she was great. She was lovely. But right now, let's talk to Nanrisa Lee. She plays Jenn, and we find out a couple behind the scenes things that nobody knew before. So let's just call them exclusives. Okay. Awesome. So here it is, our interview with Nanrisa Lee.
Nanrisa, welcome to the Quantum Leap podcast.
Hey everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, we got Jen Cho herself. Is it Jen Chow? Jen Cho? I'm always wondering how I should pronounce that.
Yes, me too. Funny story. We've changed the last name to Jen Chu, CHU. So I'm half Chinese and half Korean. My character is Chinese and half Korean as well. But you know, my last name's Lee. It's like really easy, and so I don't know anybody with the last name CHOU. So we were shooting, and I was like, "Is this Chow Chu Chow?" You know, and we had a conversation about it. And I was like, "Listen, I just don't want to be mispronouncing my own last name." So we changed it to Chu, CHU, which they were really lovely about. Of what would you prefer? And that's my late best friend's last name, and I just thought it was a nice tribute. So IMDb, if you're listening.
That's lovely.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, that's so. We've been speaking for about 30 seconds. We already have a Quantum Leap podcast exclusive. It's now Jen Chu. So Fandom, take heed. But either way, we are thrilled to have you here on the show. And if we can just start generally, if you want to tell the fans a little bit about your background and how you came to Quantum Leap.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Quantum Leap specifically, I mean, I pretty much the standard way, got an audition through my agent, and it was my first. I feel like it's like kind of my first like real pilot season, like reading for larger roles, and this was the first one that came up, and then tested and went through and met everybody in Vancouver. It was pretty standard. I was very, very excited. My deal closed on 2/22/22, so I'll always remember that day. But yeah, it was Jenn Chu, the character, I think, I know most of you have read the original pilot, right? So there wasn't a ton.
Yeah, I'm the only holdout.
I love that. I love that. You want to be surprised, right? She, there wasn't, I auditioned with dummy sides. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that term. So basically for people, if anybody isn't, it's sometimes with things with big IP, Marvel or whatever, they won't give you the actual sides. They'll give you what they call dummy sides. And just things that are sort of parallel the character or the character traits, and they just want to see what you're going to do with that. So I had one scene from the original pilot, and then also the main scene was dummy sides, and yeah, it was a really good time. It was interesting actually, because there's been some refining out for Jenn, but originally there was a lot of comedy in those dummy sides, and some backstory that carried over, which is really exciting. And so I just kind of had fun and did my best. And
I was really interested in the comedy element because I noticed in the original pilot there were some funny moments in it, and then that seemed to get sort of dragged back a bit when the show actually got to air. And then it's felt like Jenn's character has brought those comedy elements back in. Was that much to do with you, or was that more the producers? You seem to have a lot of comic timing that they've been leaning into a lot more in the last few weeks.
Yeah. I think that was always there in the scripts, and then I think especially with new shows, you're still finding the shape and refining things down and finding the tone for your show and the rhythm and the composition, really, where everybody sort of fits in together. And so there were things certainly included the whole time. And then what's that saying? I mean, I don't, it's not 100% for TV, but they say it for film. There's three movies that get made. It's the one that gets written, the one that gets the one that the actor does, and then the one that gets shot, and then the one that gets edited. So I mean, it's a similar structure. So I don't know if this is normal for all new shows, but it would make sense to me if it was, that you would include sort of more in the beginning, and maybe on the page or what you shoot, and then you kind of refine that out as you edit. So yeah, that was the case for me. But yes, there has always been humor for Jenn, and I think now we're hitting a really good sort of tone and where she is with the team and her style of humor, because I'm a lot to rein in. So, but I'm
well, we're glad it's coming out in the character.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm pleased that you see it.
Yeah, well, one thing that I've noticed is that Jenn seems to be the character who has had the most evolution since the show began. I feel like she was introduced as the head of security, and then there was some minimal stuff that you got to do. And then it really kind of took off when it seems to me like they're pairing you and Ernie together for the majority of Ernie's scenes, I guess because of the dynamic that you two share as characters. But it seems to me that chemistry is there in real life as well. So was that more of a conscious choice that they leaned into when they discovered that you guys, were kind of simpatico, or how did that all evolve?
I think it was there. I think it was there on the page. I think again in the dummy sides that I auditioned with, there was a reference to magic, and how their paths had crossed. And I think I just sort of leaned into that. One of the amazing things about being an actor, one of the really fun things is you fill in the sort of white spaces and the blanks and the backstory, and that's why things look so different on everybody, right? So that was something that was important to me when I was sort of building that character. And then we met, in person, and Ernie, as you all know, is a lovely human being, and we got to spend a bunch of time together, all of us in Vancouver. But Ernie and I were in the same hotel, and because there's Addison's character and Ben's character are so active all over the show, and we had more time on our hands, so Ernie and I would just we had a lot of steak and spinach together, a lot of steak dinners, which is great. And it was a great opportunity to get to know each other. And, he's the most generous, kind, fun, lovely person you could meet. And I think the producers and the execs definitely did pick up on that and leaned into that when we began shooting the series. Yeah. But I feel like we've all been really lucky in terms of our main cast, all the cast really, because the guest cast is phenomenal. But our main cast is, we're all a little goobery. We all like to have fun, and we get along. We enjoy spending time together. We went out together last night. We went to dinner and went to a show, and just kind of goofing around. Just the 5 of us. Yeah.
With the majority of your stuff taking place so far in present day and mostly back at the project, what is your schedule like as the week goes? Because I know it's an 8-day shoot, but how many of those days are you on set usually?
Yeah, so typically the way that the rhythm has been feeling lately is we usually shoot headquarters stuff 1 to 2 days. So they're big days. It's kind of days where you sort of hit the ground running and you're kind of in, every scene, or and you just, but it's great. It's, it's not a bad schedule. So we'll usually shoot 1 or 2 days at headquarters, and then maybe if we have a scene or two outside of that, if they let us out of the cave. I always joke around, me and Ernie go on our missions. Then that's usually another day somewhere, but typically it's 1 or 2 days. And then, because of that schedule, I really like to spend time on set, when I'm not shooting, to just kind of see Ray, because we never see Ray. We never get to see Ray because he's always in a leap, and we're always, in a different world. And it's just nice to see him. He's the kind of guy you want to spend time around him. And to meet the guest cast, similar situation. And also just to get to know, I think, the crew, production. This is my first series regular, so I'm really excited about every freaking thing, everything. So it's a really great opportunity. Yeah, to get to know the writers and the directors and watch how they work and watch the interaction, you know, get to know people I learned about greens the other day. I didn't know that's a whole department. That's like set dressing, but they, excuse me, I'm just taking a sip of my tea. Thanks for the swag. Which is a whole different department. It's set dressing, but specifically for greenery, like for plants and for, anyway, it's all fascinating to me. I'm naturally a very curious person, I think. So I try to come to set when I'm not shooting and get to know people and TV is such a huge production. You'll have, 80, 100 people on set. And because we shoot so tight on headquarters days, you're kind of hitting the ground running and you're it's all the words and, and you're focused on your scenes and your relationships with the other characters and stuff. There isn't, for me at least, a whole lot of extra bandwidth and room to kind of like soak up the other stuff. So yeah, that's what I do. That and a lot of donuts on my off days.
Nice.
Doing it right?
Can I maybe pick up on a couple of things you mentioned? You said about one of the most fun parts of your job is or being an actor is the preparation and filling in the blanks and effectively kind of that planning element. You also said this is your first series regular role. So can I ask what the biggest surprise for you has been, whether it's in terms of the direction Jenn has taken or anything else about this kind of moving into this world of regular TV production?
I don't think it's the biggest surprise, but so sorry to immediately not answer your question, but I don't think it's the biggest surprise, but
that's fine.
The biggest element certainly is that has come up time and time again and will over the entire course of my career is, for me, has been confidence in my own creativity, my abilities as an actor, and who I am as a person. I think this industry, it's a difficult industry. I mean, it's being an actor it's competitive, and there's so much of like the circumstance pie that we are not privy to, and we'll never know, why certain decisions get made, why one person got cast over another, why something, got changed or this or that. Many times it has nothing to do with you, but you'll never know. And sometimes it absolutely does have to do with you. But I think something that I have learned over me growing as an actor is that it's when you really strip it all down, it's all that other stuff can be so distracting and really stressful and kind of not good for your self-esteem or mental health, or for some people, for me. And so it's always better for me to try to just, if I start to feel that way, you kind of try to just focus and get back to sort of what is important for me, which is what feels good for me in the character, how am I pleasing myself creatively, and just having trust and faith in that. I think on this show especially, we're all really lucky to be surrounded by amazing, generous, protective creatives, the execs. I don't know if that's always the case, but that's been my experience. I always feel really protected by the EPs and everything, and I have my own separate relationship with all of them, but and I've had a little bit of conversation with that about that with them along the way, and they're always just like, you're fine, you just do what you do, you know what I mean? Like, that's why we hired you. And I think sometimes on these bigger productions you can get a little like, is that what you wanted, or I don't know, like, like, is this, do people like this? And I think sometimes it's easy to forget under those, when you think you hit like big leagues or something, that they hired you they hired me for the choices I made before they knew me, so I think it's important to keep that in mind, and as you grow as a person and as people grow in their careers and their professions, that's something that I think that comes up for probably a lot of people, right? Because you're stretching and expanding and, moving into these new territories that you haven't had experience with before. And I think if you feel fulfilled by what you're doing, then I think the odds are you're okay. You're on the right track,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm enjoying everything that you're doing on camera. And I know that in episode 8, we came to sort of a revelation about finally why Ben left prematurely, why he kind of sidestepped Addison. It was to save Addison. And in making those choices, I don't know if the actors are flying as blind as the audience. Did you know the overall arc up front before, you guys started this season? Or like, did you hear from the writers about, okay, we're going to go in this general direction? Or is it being doled out to you like it's being doled out to us? And does that affect the way you approach the character?
Yeah. Yes. And yes. Yes. It's funny. I'll get a script. And because of our schedule, because usually headquarters, it feels like, unless they take, usually headquarters kind of is up first in the shooting schedule because, this show is amazing. They build brand new sets every single week because of the leaps. And so headquarters usually goes first. And so it's not uncommon for us to get a script a couple days out, and I've taken to I'll be reading it and then I'll like text Martin, like all caps, like, oh my God, what are we doing? Just like, because I get the same surprises as everybody else. And I think it's fun. It's really fun that way. And it's also a challenge, I think, as far as my character in terms of the arc and some of the relationships, certainly certain things come as a surprise, but I think I had conversations early on and have continued to with writers and kind of anybody who will listen about I think where I feel like Jenn comes from. She didn't come up through the normal route that I guess most people who work in Pentagon programs came through. Her past is a bit different. It's a little colorful. And I think that's, me personally, I think that's a massive strength to who she is. So I had some of those discussions with people, and again continue to, and I see them reflected in the scripts. It's always nice, to be, for those things to be acknowledged, and of course, we're having these conversations, and I'm spitballing things or things that I feel like are essential for Jenn, or important relationships, right? We see that in 8. That I feel like have affected her in her life and helped shape who she is as a person and how she handles the other relationships in her life. I really don't think that Jenn, I hope I'm not spoiling this, Miriam. I don't think my feeling for Jenn is that she didn't grow up with a lot of stability in her life. And I think it's one of the reasons why she's so independent and why she's pretty tough. You kind of drop her in most situations and she's going to be okay. And she's probably like, I'm fine. You know what I mean? She's like, not only is she okay, she's like over here, like doing something, she's resourceful. And so those things I think certainly have carried through. Absolutely. So those things aren't a surprise, but in terms of plot points and story. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Just to follow up on that, in this episode, we did get a little bit more of Jen's backstory about her dad and the way that she was basically in charge of her own life when she grew up. And it intimated that you and Magic have a pre-existing relationship, not only between each other, but that Magic somehow knows Jen's dad. And there seems to be a bigger story there as well. And I don't know if you can speak to that, but seeing that on the page, does that help inform the way you approach the scene, especially the way you play off of Ernie? Because Jen has two sides, and I love that about her in the show, because you have the part where you say that you're a shark, and a shark recognizes a shark when you're talking about Janice. But then we get these great, wonderful scenes where maybe you're taking Addison aside to talk about Ben, or even in the earthquake episode, you had a great scene where you guys were just walking down the hall talking about like Real Housewives and how you're going to hang out. And so it seems like she's got both this very serious side and this very nurturing side, and we're getting to know more about that as we go. Are we going to explore more of those things in a broader way? Because you're always stuck at the project. I'm wondering how they're going to be able to branch your character out a little bit to flesh some of these things out.
Yeah. Well, you'll just have to keep watching, Chris. I think, yeah, that's absolutely right about Jen. I think, I don't know that Jen was always so trusting of people, and Jen keeps that circle small, and tight. The people and it's her family at the program. There is a toughness and I think because she had to grow up so early in age. I think there is a little bit of this like, well, if it comes down to you or me, like, it's me, but I think the way that she's grown as a person in falling in with this, with the Quantum Leap family, I think has been a huge evolution in her relationships and in the things that she believes in. It's not like full white hat. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, like, but the Quantum Leap family is one that she has grown to love and trust over time, and I think that for her has been spearheaded by Ernie, her relationship with Ernie, and then learning to, because she trusts Ernie so much, she's opened up to all of these other people. And I think too, when you come from, Jen's a thief, right? Like, she's a hacker. Like, the only difference between what she did before and what she did now is now it's sanctioned by the government. Do you know what I mean? Like, if the program shuts down in 6 months, like, you're not going to find her working for the Pentagon in another position. Like, she's, do you know, it's, so I think there's things about what she's learned about herself and about humanity, through her teammates that maybe she didn't have before. And I think because of that, because when you come from an environment where perhaps before people were not as trusting of you, and maybe rightfully so, maybe there's a little bit more me against the world kind of, point of view. And that changes when you fall into a group of people that you respect, and where over time you've earned each other's trust and really begin to care for each other, and you feel cared for and accepted and safe. I mean, that's huge for anybody, I think, I think just Jenn knows that. And I think even when she doesn't, Magic is right there to remind her of that, that sort of, there's a bit of surrogate father relationship there, and I think she feels safe and accepted by him.
So you had mentioned before that you had sort of forged separate relationships with the different EPs, and that you trust them, that you feel you're in good hands. But I have to think that the Mrs. Quantum Leap, Deborah Pratt, is probably on the set very frequently. Can you tell us what it's like to be with Deborah, who has been the biggest advocate for the return of Quantum Leap since it went off the air 30 years ago? And I just want to get a feel of what she's like on set. And after that, if you were familiar with the original Quantum Leap before you auditioned for the role.
Yes, I was. Which way should we go? Let's go Deborah first. Let's go ladies first. Deborah's great. Deborah's awesome. She is on the set often, and she made it very clear, to me at least, that in the beginning, that she was available to me if I had any questions, concerns, if I just wanted to talk about things that weren't about my character, or weren't even about the show. We were on the phone yesterday. She called me yesterday on Saturday. And we had a great conversation. I think Deborah is, if in character, Ernie is a little bit of my work dad, Deborah could be like a little bit of a work mom, work aunt. Deborah, one thing that is really obvious about Deborah, that is just sort of undeniable, is how much she loves the show, how much she loves the show, and how much she loves all of us. How you can feel, of course, that she just wants this to be a good experience for everybody, audience included, and I think she does. It's great to have somebody there and in that position that you feel like you can have conversations with that about anything. I think she's always available, and I think that she makes her. I'm not. She's busy, but she always makes time. And I feel her love. She's just a wonderful person, and she says hi. By the way, she said to say hi to all of you. Yeah. I think she's very fond of you. Yeah.
Just like you, Matt sometimes just chats with Deborah. They're like BFFs now. So Matt knows how you feel.
She's lovely.
Right, Matt? I mean, she's wonderful.
I'm not quite sure I can call her a work aunt, but
I will say, I think that because she's had such great experience in the industry and in multiple arms of the industry, she is such a proponent of, I feel like she looks out for me, and is like, listen, if there's things you want to do them. She's so encouraging, and she's really generous in lending guidance or advice or support into any way or that I might be curious about growing as in my career and as a person. But for somebody like me, again, where this is my first show as a series regular, there's a beautiful amount of diversity in our show, in front of the camera and behind. And I think that was something that was really important to Deborah, and the rest of the executives, to Martin, to Brian and Steven, to everybody. And you really feel that on set. And I think she's a part of that. And that's, to me, that's a big deal. That's a really, I'm going to get emotional. It's a big deal.
Well, it is a wonderful part of the legacy of Quantum Leap, the representation, and you guys are so much more free to do it now as opposed to the way that they were constrained in the late 80s, early 90s when the original show aired. So, speaking of that legacy, Deborah is so interested in carrying it forward. How vested were you in the original series? Were you a fan of it? Did you know much about it before you got the part as Jenn?
Yeah, I was a fan of it. I used to watch the show with my dad. So my dad was, when I booked this, my dad was, I'm going to get emotional again. my dad was, I think, the person I was most excited, to tell because I remember watching that show with him when I was a kid. I think too, the love, and then of course, like one of the first things he asked me was like, "Are you gonna leap?" And I was like, "No, I'm not the leaper. I'm not." But hey, maybe season 3. But I think one of the
never
things,
say never.
Yeah, right. Well, I'll pitch it to the writers. I think one of the things that was. I hear that from many people that people watched it with their family. And I think one of the reasons why that was is because the level of, I think, empathy in the series is so high. I mean, it just like, we were just talking about inclusion a minute ago. And I think that show really did that in its time, for its time. There was a big effort for that. And I just think, that's part of why it was such a popular show and one that people, such as yourself and myself, feel connected to today. And I think, we want to be our version of the show, but absolutely that's something that we want to retain, because I feel like, in my opinion, I think that that's what's at the heart of it. And I think that there's many ways to do that, to just push that empathy needle, just forward, or up. And yeah, I'm proud to be part of a production that I believe does that. Yeah. I was watching I was rewatching an episode last week or something. The one where Sam leaps into himself as a kid. And I just it just gave me all the feels. I love hanging out with my family, and we all really enjoy each other's company, and they're all in Hawaii right now without me, and I have like massive FOMO, but I think, I just watching it, I was just like, yep, this is why I watched that show. I think, you really feel the love and how much, like Sam wants to like, help it's his, and it's his family this time. And but also understanding the sort of like, I think the struggle of like, it's, you got to do what you're there to do. And you can't always, pick everything apart and make everything exactly the way you want it to be, and fulfill all of your personal expectations and wants, because this is not life. You just got to try to move through with grace and love, and, be a positive contribution to society if possible.
That's something that Quantum always tries to teach us, and just having such an altruistic character as Sam as an example to put that that idea forward, and then to have someone as affable and just genuinely good-hearted, seeming anyway, as Ray to take up that standard when he plays Ben. We've though hit sort of turning points in the series with this episode, and it seems to me like a lot of the back of the project stuff has so far been predicated on the fact that we didn't really know what was going on. Why did Ben leap? What's Janice's role in all this? Now that we have the revelation that we got in this episode, are we going to see a little bit of a shift in the dynamics of the back of the project stuff as the series goes forward? Because now that we have a little bit of a changing plot line with all that, I don't know if you can answer, but I have to ask the fans. The fans they'll take me out and string me up if I don't ask.
Absolutely not. I think no. Well, what would you like to see? I'd be curious to what would you all like to see? Give me your pitches. I'll take it to the writers' room.
I don't know if we have enough time. I mean, you got 3 lifelong fans here. You don't know what you're asking, but no. What we like about the back of the project stuff, yeah. But we would like to see just a little bit more cohesion so that it's like the project and the leaps are working more in lockstep, and that once the sort of that central mystery is starting to get resolved now, for things to maybe normalize, because now you're all getting on that same page. And I guess that's where I was going with that question. It seems to me like there's a congruence happening with the storylines, and I'd like to see if that's going to continue. I hope it does. So maybe that's a better way of asking what I asked previously. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the same question, but it only took me twice to actually get it out.
You had to ask it twice because I'm not going to answer it the first time around. I think
exactly
being coy. I think you'll be pleased. I think you'll be pleased with how.
Okay,
how it holds.
Good. I'll take it.
Sounds good.
So, you've been so generous with your time. Is there any aspect of the new show or something that you would like to touch upon that we haven't touched upon yet?
I haven't, since the show has come out, I have sort of not really read too much about in responses or online or watched many sort of response videos. So I think when I was coming on this show, I was like, oh well, let me I'll watch some, and I came across some of the podcasts that are right after I think the episode airs, and I think it's fascinating. I think let me just say that I think like Allison's feedback, I think, is like one of the things that's kind of really cool about the show. I think you guys are so kind, and I think and are champions of the show, but I love Allison, don't come for me. I do like that there's this format where people can respond openly about how they feel about things, and I think that this show is not it's not the original Quantum Leap, and I think as far as like the headquarters stuff, like sorry, not sorry. I love procedural, and I think that there are that's the great thing about working in a creative industry is like it's subjective and you can't please everybody. But I do appreciate the support and the honest responses. And it's always in a respectful way. And for the record, I was like, if they ask me what episode I've really enjoyed the most so far, and then I listened to that one, I was like, oh God, she's gonna use it against me for the rest. But the Halloween episode is great. I love a whodunit, and I just think the characters are so fun. Mm-hmm. We treated to a fabulous guest cast every single episode. It's so fun meeting all of these people and dropping into those worlds. I love a themed episode. I think it's great. I also love 6. I think they did a fantastic job of the reshoots and tooling everything in. And there was a lot of headquarters in that, and we had a blast shooting it. We had a really good time. But hopefully, this evolves into something that really just, balances both, and that and we can, have fun in both worlds. But, I just think it's exciting for me, at least, obviously, but to be in this. I don't know that it's not a new version of the show, but it's, we're making it in 2022 and being able to take advantage of that,
Well, that is terrific. And we're so happy that we're going to be getting more of the project stuff and more of, I'm just going to say, we heard from Nanrisa Lee, some more convergence of the project and Leap stuff and a little bit more integration. That's the way I took it anyway. Maybe not a direct quote. That's me extrapolating. But we have been so happy to talk to you here on the Quantum Leap podcast. Thank you so much for appearing with us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. And it was a good time. And I look forward to the future episodes of the show.
And we're back. How cool was that, talking to Nanrisa Lee?
Ellie, did I see her with a Quantum Leap podcast mug?
Yes, you did. We sent her a box of merch like we did a bunch of the producers. We sent to Deborah, and we sent to the 5 main cast members. And she actually sent us a thank you card in the mail, in the snail mail. And it was awesome. She sent it out on October 1st. We got it October 31st. So it really is snail mail. But it was so lovely. I remember Chris sent all of us a picture of the card she sent. So it was great just to get a thank you card in real life, and from Nanrisa Lee. And so it was great to have her on the show. She's such a great person. And you know what struck me most about the interview? We spoke with her for quite a while, like about almost an hour total. About 45 minutes of it was the interview. And I noticed Nanrisa Lee is completely different person than Jenn. She is literally a character on the show Jenn, and so many different things, like her actions, her body language, just everything is totally different. Like, yeah, she looks the same, but 2 totally different people, and I was blown away by that.
Fantastic. Yeah. No, I just love the dynamic that
Morgan,
she's
say
talking.
something.
Well, what I said during the break was that she's guested on so many different things, and I guess she can really put on a like you said, different characters. So for her to get a series regular, I'm glad.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. Yeah. Really am. So more Jenn, please. More
and
Jenn.
I'm loving
That's my request. Hashtag
I'm loving
more Jenn,
the dynamic please. That I'm loving the dynamic that she's talking about between all the actors and all of the crew on the show. It really does feel like they're forming a bit of a family there, and they can poke fun at each other and have some fun, and but it seems like it's really becoming a great place to work. So let's hope they keep it up, and it makes for boring podcasting, but it definitely is something that we all love to hear.
When I hear that they hang out with each other when they're not working, it just makes me happy to know that they actually like each other in real life. Because like when you find out people don't like each other and you're watching the show, it's kind of like you always have it in the back of your mind, like the guy who plays the dad on Alf doesn't like the guy who plays Alf, and you're like, but now I can't enjoy Alf. So I'm glad they're all like friends. So I think the Vancouver shoot really cemented all that for him. So I'm just blown away. Like I had a thought about 6 months ago. I think I was watching the guy that does the Orville YouTube channel. Great channel if you're a fan of the Orville, and he gets these guests, and I'm like, wow, he's getting like the main stars of the show. And he's sitting there with like Seth MacFarlane and stuff, and I'm like, wow. And I was like, that would be cool if we could do that for Quantum Leap and like go forward 6 months and we have Raymond Lee, and I'm like, just these people are so kind. You ask them, hey, can you be on our little silly show? And they're like, sure. So I'm just really impressed by everybody front of the camera, behind the camera, Quantum Leap, and we got the whole set. And as promised earlier, we have a Look and Leap. This time it's with Morgan Feldon, and he's got something cool to show us. So hit it, Leapy. All right, Look and Leap. Ooh, look at that thing. So did you have to pay $600, Morgan, or $700, or did you just have to spend months of your time on it?
Not for the first one. The first one, I had to design it to get it.
That's very cool.
We might be talking years,
this
not
is
months.
Cool. This is the Handlink. Years, probably years. Wow. So I have to ask about it. How is it constructed? Is it like lucite, different lucite that's super glued together, or is it one panel on each side that's like painted? How does this work? Because I've never seen one in real life.
It's 8 different colors of acrylic.
Okay.
And if you've ever glued acrylic before, you know that it loves to haze and craze and crack and crinkle and do all of these things that you don't want acrylic to do. So learning how to glue it was a big part of that. And that's what my partner Rob does. He does the full assembly. He came up with the full replica, and then I created the electronics for it.
And Morgan, we were wondering, is that a USB port at the bottom?
Yes.
Yeah. So if we...
It is. So it's got a...
Cool. And is that to charge it up?
You can plug it in and charge it. Yes. And we're using an aftermarket iPhone 6 speaker.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah, we were talking about it when Christopher was on and showed his. Can you hack it? Can you go in there and look at the files through the USB port?
So...
Well, I know you can, but can the average hacker that works on the dark web do it? Could Jenn do it?
Jenn can probably do it.
Okay.
The only thing I would say is that if you look at it, if you look at it, I'll turn it off so you can see it better. There are these rivets, which are the triggers for the sounds, and under that, we had to find a trick to transfer the capacitive touch from the rivets to the circuit board. And the method that we came up with was we bought this conductive foam, which I've never heard of, and then wire glue, which I've never heard of. And so we actually glue little pieces of this black conductive foam to the circuit board. And then when you assemble it, the rivets push into that. And so you have positive contact.
Oh.
So I'm not going to, on one hand, I'm a big believer in right to repair. I really am a strong proponent of right to repair. The only thing is that unless you're really careful, you can mess up that foam if you try to take one of these apart. And we've actually had a couple of people who have taken them apart, and they had to mail them to us for us to fix it. So
not a good idea.
If someone is at the base in Antarctica with their Handlink, and they need a repair, I'll walk them through on a video call.
Nice.
But
what I meant more though was like if you wanted to extract some of the sound files, would you be able to plug it into the computer and get the files out?
You could. There's a special connector that I use on the board to load the sounds into it.
Okay.
But at this point, we should release the files. We should make the files available to everyone. Matt and I, Matt and I, we spent about 2 weeks going through every episode, and we recorded all the different sound effects and cleaned them up and removed any kind of voiceover and noises in the background. So none of the sound effects that we used in this were ones that were out on the web because they all had noise or different problems. So we put a lot of effort into getting all those clean sounds. But, I have to remember that I'm also a big fan of the show and got to put it out there. So I'll make those files available.
Very, very well.
We just got an exclusive from Morgan Feldon.
Yeah. Well, the reason that I asked, actually, Morgan, was because Chris was saying that when he got it, he managed to find a particular Easter egg in there. I can't remember what he said he found, but the thing is he couldn't figure out how he did it, and he hasn't been able to do it again. So he wanted to be able to go in and see if he could find where it was.
Well, does it say the word Ziggy?
I don't even remember what Chris said it was. Do you, Albie?
Yeah, he was saying it was doing other things.
So there's the Easter egg mode, which we've published, and that's just, you hold this down. Actually, hold on. Which one? Oh, hold on.
I'm salivating. I want one so bad.
Here it is.
Here we go.
We're having some difficulty with this one here. Let me get the other one here.
Gotta get your backup.
You gotta whack
handling.
it on the side of it.
It helps to have two.
You gotta whack it on the side of it.
I gotta get my backup hand link out. Okay.
Yeah. These things are strong.
Yeah.
Because everybody's always whacking them.
So that's the Easter egg mode.
Oh wow!
And it has 7 different sounds. And it's funny, we were just about to ship it, and then I said we've got to put some kind of Easter egg mode, and then I started to put the sounds in. And I said we got to have an animation. So I mean, it's nothing from the show, but I just thought it looked cool.
It does, very much so.
It does.
But it has,
Now what you've got to do, Morgan, you have to get in touch with. You have to get in touch with Samsung, and you have to get in touch with Apple, and actually get these turned into mobile phones.
One of the other things that it has. I guess I have to do it on this one. I'm sorry. Go back to this one here.
Morgan could probably make it into a phone.
That is we don't publish this anywhere, but this is the volume adjust.
Nice.
Very nice.
I would need it on the loudest setting because I'm mostly deaf.
And after you do that, it actually saves it so that when you turn it off and back on, it remembers.
Oh, wow. Man, this is complicated stuff. This is like fun. I love it.
Well, we're buying the speakers, and every speaker is a little different. So we have to make sure that when we send them out, that we get them all the same. Little things you have to think about.
I'm sure most people who've seen this want one right now. Where can they get one?
Replicaprops.com.
Wow.
Go to the TV section, and there you go. And my website is cosplaylightandsound.com, and I do have a YouTube if you want to follow along, see what we're doing. We're working on the calculator hand link. That's going to be the next one.
Ooh, wow. You should have a subscription service. Like a hand link a month for only $9.99, $9.99, $9.99.
Yeah.
And how are you going with the wrist link?
The wrist link, that one is getting the assembly right. So the original, which I have over here. Oh, hold on. Oh, the original was a clear acrylic kind of backplate. And then, of course, you had all the colored blocks on top, and then you had a wristband on it. Well, it's very easy to break. And conversations back and forth with Rob, and he basically said, yeah, we need to make it a little more resilient. And so actually, we're going to be doing a process where we're actually going to stamp the entire back plate out of a flexible material so that there's less chance of it breaking.
Nice.
And on the show and tell, I got to demo that we got wireless charging working, which was really, really exciting.
Very exciting. Yeah, lots more to come. I'm so excited. The only thing I asked Morgan is when you get my order, put it on the top of the list. I know you're always making them. So I know they keep getting more and more popular. So.
Surely this free advertising must be worth something to Albie.
Something. A couple bumps up in the queue. Well, Morgan, Feldon, thank you so much for the look and leap. We got to look and we got some exclusives from this. So maybe Chris will be watching this and he can get it into those modes because he did it by accident and he couldn't get back to it. So that was great.
Wow. He can always message me. He knows where to find me.
I'm so excited. Yeah. So I love this because you're part of the Quantum Leap crew now, and the Quantum Leap podcast have our very own mad scientist. And I think
if you saw the show and tell, I got to show my first hand link that I made.
Wow. Yeah.
Out of Legos.
Yeah, which is awesome. So
this was fulfilling a dream for me as much as anyone else, is actually to have this in my hand. was very exciting.
You know, it's funny. I would have thought they would have called it the Lego Handlink. Why did they call it the Gummy Bear Handlink? Do you know? Is that what they said on the show?
Well, in the leap back, Al is trying to get it to work, and of course,
That's right.
he has a hand link, and he's in 1945, and so he's come on, you rotten pile of gummy bears. And I don't know if that name had existed before that, but I think that cemented the name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
has anybody ever made a hand link out of gummy bears? I'm sure it's possible.
Probably.
it would be very
Resin colored
tasty for
gummy
a short
bears.
time.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say you could probably melt them and then, put it into the molds. And I mean, it wouldn't be the same combination of colors, but you could probably get it to be approximately the right shape and something like that. That would be something cool to have for
Baking
next
with
Halloween.
Quantum Leap.
Yeah, something cool for next Halloween.
Yeah.
We could experiment
hand out
with it.
the
do
gummy
trick-or-treating
bear
with it.
hand links.
Are you
Don't mind
starting
the
a new
super
show,
glue.
Baking with Quantum Leap?
Yeah. Quantum baking. Yeah. Yeah. So that's really cool, Morgan. Every time I see him, I want one. It must be great to just be part of the team that you and your partner make these things, and everybody who sees him wants one instantly, and it's just about figuring out how.
Well, it was a blast to bring it to Dragon Con and walk around with it in costume. And had a few people ask, "Wait, Ziggy!" So that was pretty cool to see that Quantum Leap's still being remembered, and now we have the new show.
Yeah. And the fact that Deborah Pratt's got a couple of them now too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my hands were shaking as I was building those. I'm like, am I really making something for the co-creator of Quantum Leap? I mean, talk about a loop.
Yeah.
Man, it's a perfect circle. So basically, the perfect circle. That's talking about a bootstrap paradox. Did I get that right? Is that what's going on with Ben drawing the perfect circle on the board? Because he has to leap to save her, but leaping to save her kills her. So he has to leap to save her, but leaping to save her kills her. What?
Well, I hope not.
What?
I don't like the
Yeah.
idea of a bootstrap paradox in a show that's about putting things right that once went wrong, not putting in place things that are going to happen no matter what.
We'll have to see how it goes. Yeah. Morgan, final thoughts on Stand By Ben.
I thought it was a great episode. Definitely in my top 3. Put it up with the boxing episode and the earthquake episode. So, yeah, for sure. A very good episode.
All right. On a 1 to 5 scale, what would you give it?
Do you get half points?
If you
Sure.
want.
Let's do a 4. We'll give it a 4. We have to leave room for improvement. This is we're a third of the way through the first season.
Yes.
How many shows have found their feet in the first season?
Not very many.
Not many.
Not many. But
to me,
it's good.
Yeah, to me, this one's doing it. I think the only one that found it immediately was Lost. But, that happens once in a lifetime, I think. Hayden, what are your final thoughts on Stand By Ben?
Yeah. Well, like I said, definitely an improvement on the last episode. And there's a lot about this episode I did like, but there were a few things that I didn't like how stupid the kids were at the start, like how Magic should have minded his own business, a couple of things like that. But obviously the good far outweighed the bad. All right, I'm just a nitpicky asshole. So, but in the interests of fairness, I can't give it full marks if there were parts of it I didn't like. So, yeah, I'm with Morgan on this one. I'm going to give this one 4 out of 5 landlines to unplottable locations.
Off the grid landline.
Yes.
Yep. You can see that telephone installer coming out. I'm supposed to install a landline here, but it says your house doesn't exist. I don't know what we're doing. Maybe he just ran a wire to the pole 5 miles away. Who knows? That's how that works, I think. Copper. Well, I kind of spoiled it earlier, but this was my favorite episode so far of the new Quantum Leap. I think it has to do with the nostalgia of that time, the music, the acting, the writing, just the general feel of the episode. And I like that I was able to feel all the good feels while they were also dealing with different issues that affect people. And, people might see themselves as one of these type of people, like many of us did in the 80s, as one of the Breakfast Club, And we might there might be kids today that identify with one of these people and see that, their lives, if they work at it, they can turn out good, so maybe it'll give somebody hope. So I'd like to see that. But like the scene with the wolves, that gave me like chills, and it wasn't because of anything other than, I think, instinct. Like, I think I was frightened and my hair stood up on end on my arms just because, woo, and the wolves, and I was like, and when they were able to resolve the problem, I felt relief. Like, I'm not going to be eaten. Like, that's how much I was into the episode.
Hey, that reminds me, actually, Albie.
The characters are great.
Sorry, I was just going to say, that reminds me, actually, Morgan, you were talking about all the tropes that you see. This one also had the trope of, oh, you're on the run, so someone has to break their leg. Every time.
This is true.
And so that was the trope of the week, broken leg?
Broken leg and the scary wolf.
Okay. Broken ankle, yeah. And I, for a couple viewings of this episode, I thought, why didn't she just break her ankle in the car wreck? But then if she did, they wouldn't have went out to the wilderness. Probably they'd try to get her help while they were still by the road. So that's probably why. But it was interesting to find out about that they had the snake wrangler on set to make sure they didn't get bit by snakes, and there were actual snake holes that they had to watch out for. So that was interesting. But the episode gave me really good feelings. Like I said to myself, Quantum Leap has gotten it. I know I've said it before, like, oh, they've nailed it. They got Quantum Leap now. And then like the next week, it'll be like, oh no, this is it. They really got it here. So like TNG is one of my favorite series. And man, those first couple seasons are rough sometimes. There's a couple good ones in there, but a lot of them are rough. But I'm really enjoying so far this third. You did math, right? First third of season 1. And I'm going to give it a 5. And I wish I could give it more, but I only made graphics up to 5. So I really enjoyed it. And I'm going to give it 5 whole t-shirts.
So I have a question for you.
Okay.
Was I the only one when the guards were taking Leah away who were like, isn't Ben going to run out and do a flying noodle kick?
Right? Well, yeah.
Why is he letting them get away? But then they called her uncle on the phone and it worked out. So
I thought that was a better way to go. Yeah. Because Ben knew they weren't going to be able to fight him off.
That was the resolution on so many of the old show, was the old flying noodle kick.
Yeah.
It would have worked. And they could have took the van and went off and went, woohoo! Maybe there was a version of that. Yeah, it's weird, but I guess it's more of a logic puzzle for Ben than Sam was just like react in the moment, Yeah.
Part of it too is that in this series there's kind of the merging of the original body and Ben's body as well. So he's probably he's already not anywhere near as capable a fighter as Sam was, and when you add into it young Ben and his abilities or lack thereof, he's probably realized that he had no chance of winning. So that is what I think the reason.
That would have been funny though.
Yeah.
Seeing like a kid like I was back then, in husky jeans trying to do a noodle kick. That would have been a funny cut. So yeah, now that bothers me, Morgan. It was a perfect episode and now you ruined it. So I'm going to have to deal with this. I'm going to have to go back and logic this.
Well, getting the school shut down was actually a much better ending than just getting the kids away.
Right. He wasn't saving just those 4 kids. He was saving many kids. And the reporter did exposés on many other camps like that and shut them down. So he did the right thing. Yeah. But it would have been cool with a little bit of fighting.
Topical because these places absolutely exist and absolutely, go way beyond any kind of rehabilitation just into cruelty. So
yeah. I know people personally in my life that have been to rehabilitation camps, like for being gay, and they're like in their 50s, 60s, 70s or whatever, but they were through that and tortured and, just told they were horrible people just for being who they are, So I'm glad those things don't exist as much as they did, even though there's people still doing it, I'm sure. But just the stories I've heard just from friends of mine makes me, maybe that part of it gave me the feels that I knew it would hurt less people. So Ben did great. He saved the day. So 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 6. Okay, I'll give it a 6. Yep, 6. This episode gets a 6. What did you guys think about that trailer for next part of the season, the January 2nd, 2023? That's so far in the future. What did you think about those short little clips they gave us of those 2 episodes and Janice being hauled in by 2 guards?
Yeah.
What do you think about
I can
that?
definitely see in the bodyguard leap, Ben carrying the woman, and in the background, and I will always love you.
Ooh.
Yeah, it looks cool. I'm very keen to see it.
Now, I think we were led to believe that the person coding in the bed was Addison, but when I paused it, it kind of looked like Nanrisa Lee, kind of looked like Jenn for some reason. Could have been somebody else. We didn't see a full face. We just saw like chin. So I don't know.
Is it weird that I have not watched the preview 27 times yet?
You haven't?
Well, now
I
would
went
be a good
through it
time
frame
to
by
play it.
frame. Elton John. Oh yeah, let's play it.
If Ben is using the leaps to get to a specific point in the future, that point might be Addison's death.
We're not going to let anything happen to you.
Everything I have done was to save you.
Who's going to deliver our baby?
She is, Rita.
Me? Oh, I'm gonna need some help here.
Chicago, 1979.
Wow.
That's Elton John.
I'm a bodyguard.
Siggy says she's murdered tonight.
Wait! Claire! She's not responding. We are under attack. Addison, there's something you should know.
Quantum Leap returns January 2nd on NBC.
Now, what do you think, Morgan?
Wow. Well, Elton John, that's I guess they're going right to the celebrity leap.
Yeah, it'd be cool if they got the real Elton John. I don't know. Probably.
Well,
not.
they had the real
That'd be
chubby
cool.
checker, despite him being 30 years older than that he was being portrayed.
That's true.
I thought Elton John lived overseas. He lives in Atlanta.
Really? Don't they do a lot of filming in Atlanta? That'd be cool. So he's probably there
There's a
just to help Elton write "Candle in the Wind," right?
Maybe.
That's probably the ending. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Or maybe he helps him write Peggy Sue, and that'd be totally weird, right? Because he didn't. Okay, so I'm looking forward to 2023. It sucks that we have 2 months off from Quantum Leap, but I'm just going to go back and rewatch them.
Yeah.
So, and as we do, we've been watching the other series for 30 years now, so this gets added to the queue.
Yeah. We'll get to watch the Christmas episode again in the meantime.
Yeah, I was hoping for a Christmas episode. No Christmas episode yet. Next time. For the Quantum Leap After Show, I'm Albie.
I'm Morgan.
And I am the flaming car wreck known as Hayden McQueenie.
Ooh.
Merry Christmas.